In this episode, I'm going to share a 4-step plan to avoid homestead overwhelm, particularly when raising livestock. We'll start with listing your needs and wants, then prioritizing, choosing one thing, and finally, evaluating how it worked. Grab a pencil and notebook, and let's start planning. Hey friends, welcome to the Get Goatwise podcast. I'm Millie Bradshaw, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. Here we'll talk about raising goats, chickens, and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Homestead overwhelm is real. It can begin in the decision-making process before you ever buy your first animals, and can quickly become an unbearable load if you don't have a good plan in place and follow it. I see homesteaders quit everything because they took on too much all at once. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. Remember my childhood chicken experience? It's a great example of what not to do. I wanted chickens, so my mom ordered 80 pullets for me. 80. That was a lot of cute fluffiness to enjoy, and I loved it. Even when they were growing, it was still fun. But once they reached full size, 80 chickens need a lot of feed and water, and that was a lot of feed hauling for a kid, especially in the winter. I was so excited for the first eggs, and I still think eggs are magical, but 80 chickens lay a lot of eggs, and it wasn't long before the amount of eggs became overwhelming. Not to mention the mess in the chicken coop. Cleaning the coop was a huge task, and I couldn't see the end of it, ever. Today, I'm going to share a strategy to help you avoid overwhelm like the chicken experience in my younger years. Here is my 4-step process to homestead animal success. Step 1. List your needs and wants. This is a whole homestead list, so anything that needs attention or work that needs done, you'll list it on here. If you don't have land yet, this is a great time to pre-plan and dream about what you'd like your homestead to look like, and you'll be able to work off this plan both short and long term in a couple of ways. You can start studying and learning about the things you really want, and when it's time, you'll be so much better prepared. You can also start working on some of the list items that don't require acres of land, whether that's from-scratch cooking, canning, gardening, or starting with some plants on the balcony or chickens in the backyard. And when you are in a position to purchase land, you'll have a much better idea of what's important to you when you're looking at potential properties. Here are some things to consider when making your list. What does your family like to eat? Eggs? Meat? Be specific if you can. What kind of meat? Milk? Vegetables? Honey? How about other homestead needs? Weed control, protection, companionship, fence, power, buildings? And what do you want maybe just for fun? For me, that's a mini donkey. Go ahead and hit pause and make your list. Now that you have your list, let's move on to step 2, prioritize. Now go through your list and give everything a priority number 1, 2, or 3. Number 1 is for things that are a top priority need. For example, if your family drinks 8 gallons of milk a week, the dairy animal might be a number 1. If you eat eggs daily, laying hens might be a 1. If you have a major weed problem that needs dealt with, goats might be a 1. If your fences are falling down and wouldn't hold an animal of any kind, fencing is probably a number 1. 2 is for the things that are important, but not urgent. If your water well is powered by electricity and you'd like to convert it to off-grid, but it's not a huge rush, that would be a 2. If you like turkey, but not all the time, turkeys would be a 2. Number 3 items are things you want, but aren't going to make or break your success on the homestead. For some, that would be companion animals, novelty animals, or building a shop. How you rank these will be completely up to you and what's important to your family. Since we're focusing on livestock animals here, we're going to circle any need or want that can be met by animals. Things on your list like garden or fencing won't be circled, but leave them on the list because it will give you an idea of your time commitments and priorities and keep you from taking on too many new things at once. Step 3. Choose one thing. This is the hard part. Out of all your circled priority 1 items, you will want to pick one to start with. I know you want to do everything all at once and get self-sufficient as fast as you can, but in the long run, you won't ever be self-sufficient if you take on too many things, burn out, and quit. Pick one thing, try it, learn from your mistakes, get efficient at it, and then add in the next thing. Here are a couple of tips to help you fast-track the process of adding animals and to make sure you are adding the right animals for you. First, start small. Small in size and small in number. Smaller animals require less input of feed, so once you have their fence and shelter in place, your inputs will be much lower. Having fewer animals gives you time to really observe their behavior and get to know them. That way, when something is off, you'll notice faster and be able to start problem solving. When you have a lot of animals, it's hard to take the time to just watch each one and see how they all act when they're happy and healthy. So, start small to decrease losses, especially when you are new to livestock. Second tip, go terminal and short term. Rather than starting with breeding stock, purchase young animals to raise up and finish for harvest. Breeding animals are a whole different category, and I know you want to get there because that's important for self-sufficiency, but give yourself the gift of experience before you jump into breeding livestock. This will give you some quick wins in knowledge and experience, and a bonus is that you might decide you do not want to raise a particular animal, and at this point, you're not heavily invested, so you can let that go and try something else. A great starting point is meat chickens. Depending on the breed you choose, they will be ready for harvest in 8 to 20 weeks. After you try it, you can decide if that worked for you, or if you'd rather focus on something else. Another bonus of short-term terminal livestock is not having to care for them through the winter, or whatever is the hard season in your climate. You have some flexibility in when you bring in the young animals, and with some calculating, you will know when they go to freezer camp, so you can relax through the winter, enjoy your harvest, and not worry about frozen waterers, expensive winter feed, and all the other things that winter brings. When you buy breeding animals, you are much more committed and invested year-round. Once you've tested out the terminal, short-term side of things, you'll be much better prepared to take on breeding livestock. And if you try a few different things, you'll know where you want to put your effort, whether that be in chickens, rabbits, pigs, goats, sheep, cattle, or something else. Now, step 4. Evaluate and choose the next thing. Now that you've had your first homestead livestock experience, step back and evaluate. Did you like the product your animals produced? Was the amount of work required worth it for the amount of product produced? What were the challenges you faced and how did you handle them? What would you change? Did it work for your family, homestead, and goals? Once you have evaluated your experience, you can decide, do I want to continue with this? Was the work I put in worth it? And if that's the case, then great. You can continue with that. And if you feel like you're ready, add the next thing and do the same process. So go ahead and make that list, prioritize, choose one thing, and get started with homestead livestock. You're gonna love it. Hey there. Thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email linked in the show notes. And meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.